fact, how many people here multitask? Okay, you're all wrong. Not one of you multitasks. And that's part of the myth. You see, the cerebral cortex has a cork in it. And if you're doing logical or reason analysis of anything, you can do one task at a time. Think of that when you see a hands-free driver in a nice free car. Also, when you're involved in making a phone call or pushing information out from your vehicle, your field of vision narrows. Enjoy driving down the streets of Canada, thinking of how many people are out there talking on the phone, multitasking. What your brain does do is shift focus rapidly. That's what your brain actually does. But the moment that you're expressing an idea based on a rational thought, if you still have those, that moment is the only thing going on in your brain. So kids train multitasking by video games and doing the kinds of things they do. And you see them. The younger they are, the more they're able to, quote, multitask. But all they're doing is rapid focus shifting. I love this one. This is Barry Diller, a friend of mine, who said, consumers will pay for content they always have. I'm not hearing laughter. Thank you. 95% of all music on the web is pirated. By the way, the choice of the word pirated tells you what you're supposed to feel about it. Interesting. Here we have an industry begging for copyright protection on their proverbial knees, and they do a lot of good work on their knees. But for an industry to survive, it needs a government to protect you. The antiquated copyright laws of the United States, the antiquated copyright laws of Canada are barriers to the future. But don't worry, they're being ignored. They're not relevant anymore. I love generational groupings. Oh, wow, let's gonna go for television 18 to 49. What the hell does an 18-year-old woman have in common with a 49-year-old? On opposite sides of menopause? We have these stupid, stupid demographic groupings that have absolutely no relevance to anybody whatsoever. Because we go back to that singularity theory, the idea of hyper-accelerating change. Think about what hyper-accelerating change means to what a generation means. Baby boomer, whew. X, whew. But if you start having hyper-accelerating change, the familiarity with communications techniques, information, data, technology becomes decreasing shorter, 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 shorter. So when you start dealing with kids who are like 2, 3, 4, their generational cohort is 3 years. Now that means that when you're marketing and you're segmenting in terms of technological competence, what technology reaches which group, how do you reach different groups, you can deal with generations when you're dealing with older folks, but you can't do that when you're dealing with younger people because they change so much. Picture, I'm going to play a video game here for you guys. Or, now I'm going to do the same thing 10 years from now, and I'm a kid. Maybe you get the difference. Maybe you don't. There's a notion that unions will protect us. The residuals will be there. We'll have work rules. We'll be able to control how we make things. I heard this morning people talk about interns. We had a word for those back in the 1860s in the United States. We called them slaves. Interns in the United States, unless they're part of an academic program, have to be paid minimum wage. I don't know what Canadian law is, but I suspect it is even more protective of the worker than the American law. So those of you who use interns unpaid to do the things because it's not economically feasible or commercially feasible to pay them a living wage, and they're desperate to be in this business. How many film schools are there? What are these people going to do when they graduate again? Okay. I see you're already warming to me. I feel the love. I feel the love. But I don't have a white suit, so I can't really feel the love. Consumer expectations have a lot to do with how you get paid. When you go online and you see stuff, as my quote from the Nielsen Company clearly points out, unless you're buying and shopping, you're not paying. if you have cable television or satellite television, the consumer has an expectation of a financial transaction. When you're dealing with mobile platforms, you have a billing procedure and a mechanism to pay. So when you're developing content for various media, the ability to extract money for that, other than this ubiquitous advertising myth, is obviously going to be predicated on the medium you choose. We talked this morning, people talked about cross-platform. I think that's exciting. I have no idea what it means. None. Because people look at an image on a screen. Television, mobile, web, other, screen, what? What does it matter? In my world, there are 3 competencies in media and entertainment. 3. The rest is all bull. 1, creative. You don't got something good to say, ain't worth it. 2, marketing. If you can't convince enough people what you got good to say is good enough for them to see, consume, great. 3, deal making. Would you pay for it? What are the economics surrounding it? How did you acquire it? You'll notice technology and distribution are not core competencies. They don't mean anything. You can spend billions, trillions of dollars, subsidize technology all you want, and the only thing that's going to happen is a little bit of it's going to work and most of it isn't. And those who have content and the marketing power to put content out there and get enough people wanting it, however that is, and I'll talk about that in a moment, they win. Those of you who are consumed with distribution, I have sad news for you. You're over. And I know that when I talk to filmmakers and I talk to people in television, et cetera, they're all use the D word, like it matters. It is what it is. When you have a big enough piece of content with the right kind of marketing, it will go into the right channels of distribution if you know what you're doing with the deal making. That's heresy. We're all so caught up on what's cool. Going back to that little notion of hyper-acceleration of change. Picture what you would be like if you grew up in a world of hyper-accelerating change. Picture you are younger than you are now. Even you old folks out there in your 20s. We have developed among younger people, and there are different phases of life. Somewhere between around age 11, children begin to develop skepticism. So somewhere between 12 and 25, you start getting a very different kind of an audience. Before that age of skepticism develops in a human being, there tend to be followers, they tend to believe what they're told, they tend to be in a different group, which makes family film very, very interesting, not to mention the fact that parents tend not to steal content for their children. It's a bad example. But these same children are now growing up with knowing that whatever is around them is going to change. So they develop a mentality that changes the way what we have is relevant. They're the what's next generation. What's now is not cool. What's next might be, if I sanctify it or if my peer leaders sanctify it. Which can tell you why movie stars are worth less than the paper they're printed on, unless they're character actors and can create something new. Have you noticed the trend this past couple of summers? The big star vehicles tended to be movies that, you had a Sandra Bullock film, you had Johnny Depp in one movie that didn't work, but they're character actors, and it's the movie that carries it. It's the change, it's not the movie star. Movie stars represent what is, not what's next. And so the minute Hollywood sees somebody in a successful movie, they perceive, because this is the way they've always done things, that that person has inherent value. Stupid foreign buyers step into that mythology and say, I want that actor in my movie because I can sell that to my audience. Telecasters all over the world who are too old to understand what's going on planet Earth are saying, yeah, I want to have my log line with the relevant names in it so I can sell the TV to the old people who watch television, because young people don't.